back again for war, for victory, and more soon than perhaps one might expect in cycling, since the Cape Commune campaign was primarily showing off new content that was part of the first content DLC that came out, Together for Victory. Though by the time that stream had occurred, already the second one was also out, and thus deserves itself a bit of a focus. That being, as I'll just snap over of the old world map, Death or Dishonor, which, alongside the usual cluster of additional mechanical widgets, put out unique focus trees for several Central European countries, lodged here between Axis and Commentary, in order to grant them, more nuance into how they can be involved. Since these are all pretty reasonable mid-sized powers, which, while a lot of common historical narratives overlook how involved in the war the whole mid-Europe was, a lot happened here. And some amount of that now receives recognition in-game, alongside, as well, more opportunities for things to fly wildly off the rails of history into new realms of shenanigans, which is why my cursor has settled here on Hungary, as buried within the Hungarian focus tree is a unique opportunity among the currently available options for political antics within Hearts of Iron 4. Which we will see. I believe at this point the full list is Hungary, Yugoslavia, Czechoslovakia, and Romania received their new unique trees. Don't think either of Bulgaria is still generic, and Albania also still generic, and Austria itself also still generic at this time. But we have many new interactions of rules and mechanisms to put into play. Since, as I'm going to dive into here, there's a pretty usual overall broad arrangement of course, we have over here, visible on this side of things, there's a whole series of political and diplomatic options. Your three main branches: if you go red, go brown, go blue, or wait, what's this other option? What have we here? Daily support for unaligned. Here, in the Hungarian focus tree, we are granted the power to look upon the clash of ideologies that is about to throw the world into the old, the old blood and fire. The sequel to the war to end all wars. We can look at all of that and say firmly, as one, no thank you. We disagree respectfully and would like a mulligan. We'll sit this round out, y'all have fun, but we stand strong as the neutral faction by way of restoring the monarchy. And in particular within that, You can use the monarchy as a path to fascism, or to align with various democratic constitutional monarchies, or just call a do-over on that whole Great War thing. Just, you know, you had yourself a bit of a chance to sit back and have a think about the consequences of the old administration. And you know, you feel like maybe you've learned something. What if we get the band back together? What if we try it again? What if we make it work? You know, before things got very loud, there was that nice boy who had some ideas about multiculturalism and representation within the Empire. Whatever happened to him? He had ideas. He seemed like he was going somewhere. And so there we will go. As this, naturally, one of the first things involved here is our opportunity to reunify with Austria and form the old double monarchy. And understand that is a race against the clock to get at Austria before some other political figure tries to call a do-over on various disarmament treaties. But first, economy. In that we're going to balance the budget. Not in a way that has any economic impact over here. So we do have also our economy tree that is pretty nice. The usual generate factories, generate infrastructure, get your research slots. A nice split here where you can get some additional resources. And civilian construction speed over there. Or get more arms manufactory over here. Nice little set of focuses to get yourself a free oil refinery. And then, way off over here, our military tree that begins with, technically, on paper, we don't have an army right now. That's not supposed to exist. We were told quite firmly after the last war to cut that out. We are currently disarmed. You can see we have all of 52 men in reserve, and a sizable man deficit in the number of units that currently exist on the field. We can get to renegotiating that down the line. For now, economy. As first of all, so focus plan, we're going to try and charge our way down the diplomatic side of things, because the sooner we secure Austria, and then we have a couple of options that can emerge for approaching Czechoslovakia. The sooner we get that all sorted out, the sooner we kind of put most of the core territory back together. And importantly, this is a focus path that gives you a shitload of cores on additional territory. So we'll actually have a chance to expand and gain number as we do so. That's just the starter, and then we can proceed east against the Romanians, down to the shore through Yugoslavia, into the Italians reclaiming Venice, go after Poland, and eventually just turn right around and just kind of go wild, claiming whatever we damn well feel like. Increasingly broad definitions of Austro-Hungarian Empire. So we're going to get as much of that done as possible. Eventually we run into a wall of several of these require an amount of manpower in the field. Serves as a natural cutoff point to further advance there until we start to rearm. Then we're going to dive over and do economy things and do a little bit of military things. This whole naval tree here is hard locked until you actually have a shore to navy from. Can't even discuss. Don't even think about navy. Don't. Just stop bringing these joke bills into the parliament about what to do with the fleet that doesn't exist. We do not need capital ships to patrol the Danube. Stop it. Stop it. Although, so, like, furthermore, for development early on here, so we have this Treaty of Trianon. That is our disarmament contract, primarily with Romania. There, we are beyond disarmed. We get 0.5% recruitable population and would produce military industry at half speed. So we're not going to bother making any green factory until we have gotten that sorted out. So instead, first off, economy. We're going to build all of our core 3 states here up to 9 infrastructure. Since buried over here, we get a free point in each of those from reconnecting our rail networks with our neighbors. I may also bother to quickly dip in and grab that focus if it seems on schedule for approaching either the Austrians or Czechoslovakia about reunion. As you can see here, we have the choice of attempting to just deploy them, and maybe they'll just agree. Sometimes. Hard to tell whether or not the AI will take one option or another. Hopefully numbers influence that. So we're going to be building rails, just peacefully, calmly, quietly, building infrastructure for peace. What are you talking about? Fortress? That's not a fortress. That's a storm shelter. You know, it's got a nice big fortified steel and concrete core that we can house a lot of people in the event of some sort of hurricane or earthquake. Or, I don't know, a very large number of bees. And then up top there's a bunch of big open lookout platforms so people can spot bad weather and know when it's approaching or receding. In the event of a flood, you can, like, seal off all the lower areas. It's all very safe, very, very robust. We care about the well-being of all of our people. We want to be sure they are very well insulated against some sort of ambient threat, perhaps from sky or land. We got a modest little blob of military industry there. And because of our manpower cap, we're actually not going to need too much rifle production in order to fully equip our nominal army here and build up a healthy reserve on the side. So we can actually stick with like just 3 or 4 rifle factory and instead get working on some basic aircraft. Since that is something that is much more industry hungry than it is, you know, people hungry. So, a couple of rifle, bit of support equipment, and start to slowly accumulate birds. Very inefficiently, since we don't have rubber. We do in fact have a tiny bit of oil, and we have a vast abundance of aluminum, unreasonable quantities of aluminum. And pretty standard, open for research. Grab industry, grab electromechanisms to work on them long-term investments. I will probably, once we're over the initial hump, quickly grab like mountaineers and consider investing in getting into mechanized stuff early, since even once we're out of disarmament and have managed to reabsorb a bunch of our territory, we're still not too population dense. We don't have a lot of bodies to throw away, so we probably will want to more heavily arm armor whatever forces we're using. We have a respectable for the late 30s Air Force sitting in. Handful of fighter, handful of small bomber, handful of medium bomber. Even though we don't know how to make replacement medium bomber, I guess we just borrowed those from the neighbors. And we'll just go ahead and import a point of metal. Yeah, let's say France. It is the interwar. Peace reigns. We can import from wherever we feel like. And then start to get the army organized. Since, while it is certainly the plan to allow the Austrian people to choose their fate, to enter into our new agreement with open arms and clear minds, it may be necessary to monitor the results of whatever decision that is made. Be sure that we are in fact properly representing the fair and balanced opinions of the Austrian people. And since also, while we are grievously disarmed, Austria is even more so disarmed. And is perhaps more worried about certain other neighbors. Than they are about anything to do with our border. Nothing to worry about, neighbors. This is all purely hypothetical. Just a training exercise. We have only peaceful intentions. Where also we can quickly pop into the numbers here. Austria has a flat half national unity, and a flat all of their victory points are Vienna, pretty well. So it doesn't take much persuading to get that sorted out in the event that it should become necessary. Hopefully, ideally, they'll make the right decision.
Utasítások! Sorakozó! Indulásra kész! Indulásra kész!
Fly the Air Force over this way. They have the operational range necessary to entertain. And yeah, that's all our initial decisions out of the way. We've also, since we actually have a pretty decent militarization ratio there on the factories as they exist right now, and we have our grievous penalty to making more military industry. There's actually fair reason to build a couple more points of civilian. Especially since we'll also be using that productivity to build more force multiplying things for civil defense. storms happen. People can show me stats about how very unlikely it is for someone to be struck by lightning. And in response, I'll say one is too many. First economy, then monarchy. While we're allowing the first few months to roll by here, we are, of course, beyond the usual limits, also locked out of any level of mobilization or any level of drafting by the treaty. Until we use any of a variety of mechanisms to get that removed, we will be only flowers for guns, and only toasters. And a little bit in response to that, I will actually, when I have the spare power, consider dropping from export focus all the way over to free trade, since we're actually not using very much of our domestic resources for production right now. We have very little steel and only the one oil, and we have more aluminum than God. I think there's not many passages in any of the books about metallurgy of the heavens. It's hard to say. I think we can infer that there was not much aluminum involved. I guess we'll actually, for military production, be subsisting entirely on imports for a fair while, until we get down the industrial focus tree and manage to crack open a bunch of new material reserves. So with that in mind, I will get back over to my tab. Gladly take a free 5% on general factory output construction speed, which side by side, those double dip. The factory output applies to how much work a civilian point is worth. And 5% research speed, sure. I mean, it'll even furthermore cause us to actually... Or no, not yet, but later, in the event that we were to have 8 more steel kicking around, just supposing such a thing were to occur, then we'd have export-capable amounts. And right away off that entry decision, we can just quickly start with the workhorse. We're going to have to spend a lot of point to get things done. Plan is workhorse, captain of industry, and then maybe even spend the third slot on the monarchist, just to be sure that we have unanimous neutrality. I mean, what alternatives do we have on the table, really? I mean, like, we're going to have democratic elements in the structure of this government. I'm not sure why that should make us beholden to London or Paris. What obligation do we have to other folks who engage in modern governing and bureaucratic practices? Ah, I see you also have a postal system. You mint coinage and produce stamps. That doesn't make us a sports team. And I'm not sure anyone has been able to give an adequate explanation as to what's going on in Italy over there right now. They're angry that they didn't win the war enough. The war where they showed up late and accomplished nothing. And what, they're just furious and outraged that the French were too busy counting their dead to make them a participation trophy? Send them a gift basket? And then this clown looks at that and thinks, yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, same, Benny. We're right there with you. A failed artist, failed soldier, and first-time failed revolutionary managed to claw his way into an office. Good luck with that. We do not speak of this in polite company. This is the unvoiced terror that lurks beneath the hearts of every neutral. Just maybe if we ignore him, he will go away. Who knows? Perhaps in time they can be reasoned with? We'll draw a line somewhere and just agree to part ways. Or perhaps it'll turn out to be some degree of paper tiger. No matter, they're all the way over there. We have various mountains between us and them. It is effectively a whole other world. we are to have any involvement in their affairs, it will only be after extensive and appropriate discussion. And look, in all this time, we've managed to build 4 whole plane. 7, really. You know, and some fraction thereof almost 8. Whole numbers of birds. And of course, we can only keep the Air Force at exactly the size. We have no bodies to operate those planes. They just look quite nice arranged on the runway. Or in their hangars. Worthwhile consideration. Perhaps the radio could be used to improve our weather forecasting infrastructure. Appropriately miniaturized device that could be distributed to homes, used by individuals on the move. Some top scientists are even suggesting that concentrated radio waves could be used to detect clouds at distance, monitor their movements. Fascinating. These exercises are just about remaining prepared, such that in the event of some sort of misfortune befalling our neighbors, we'd be able to quickly move in and provide disaster relief. People of Vienna can rest easy knowing that in the event of a crisis, within hours we will secure their homes. Our rapid response teams will be ready to monitor their families. routinely keep an eye on what Germany is up to, since it doesn't take many steps to get to the annexation. Yeah, the main throttling mechanism on that is needing 500,000 active soldiers. We have no way to judge what their current body count is. Usually the AI is pretty slow to start rearming in terms of raw head count. So it should be some time. Especially if they're not set on historical path, they will meander about and do other things. I have always gone concentrated elsewhere. But they do really want this to be an earnest choice where there is benefits to taking both of these paths. There were once not this many numbers piled on to dispersed industry. These are a lot of useful numbers that together can be an effective trade-off for, what are we missing out on there, 5% raw output in exchange for efficiency retention, base efficiency, bomb defense, and conversion speed. Sure, let's. Sure to really show the world how committed to peaceful applications of technology we are, with sensible, redundant, distributed, low-density building codes. I'll go ahead and grab our Captain of Industry. We also have one mechanical adjustment they pretty effectively and successfully put down. Is infrastructure is very worth building, where in a lot of previous Hearts and earlier iterations of Hearts 4, it was kind of questionable as to whether you'd ever bother building railways outside of like specific supply lines to set up. Whereas here in current version, their infrastructure rating is a direct bonus to construction speed of all other shared facilities. And the math works out such that if you're going to be building basically anything, it's worthwhile to get this set up first, supposing you're not under intense time pressure to get your first units on the way. And what pressure would we be under? The world is largely at peace. It's what, 4% on fire? That is hardly anything. That's like exactly one feather ruffled. Harmless, day-to-day posturing and political friction. Suggests that the current situation is anything but routine, is senseless alarmism. Really? A boat fight? Fascinating. What's in there? This is the only news we have about this scuffle. This unpleasantness among Spaniards. There's boats involved. But what are those? Does anyone know? We've heard stories about beaches. It's said that some of our ancestors once stood near one. However, these are only legends. I mean, we've all seen the river, but how would you fit a fight in that? It just seems foolish. Why would you build a war machine that only fights in water? There's so little of it. Like, okay, maybe the lake, but then where are you going from there? Just walk around it. And like, okay, maybe in the past, some primitive forebearers of ours felt it necessary to go into water, but it is the future. We have technology. What use are these boats when we have mastered the skies? The Italians seem fixated on having more of them, and if there's any stronger argument that something is a waste of time, I've not heard it. They keep going on about how they have hundreds of boats. Foolish. Remember that nice boy? You had those ideas? Well, we found his brother, uncle, cousin, his something. His pedigree sounds quite impressive, and his head is about the right size for the hat. We have top experts in the field on the case to determine whether or not that is so. Surely, this friendly Brunkle is exactly the guiding beacon that our people need in this time of 6% global stress index. A constant reassurance that things are mostly more okay than not. On average. Sports. Could there be any greater sign of these peaceful times of international cooperation? See, just read the news. The Italians have involved themselves in this affair. It's of no concern. Much sound and fury signifying nothing. And a furthermore helpful thing is if we get ahead of the curve and preempt the Germans on all of their focuses related to annexations, southeastwards, they will instead just bubble forward to these various later choices that includes giving us prizes. Should they so choose, they will, instead of dealing with Austria or with Czechoslovakia, be looking at us and thinking of things in an entirely different light. As we provide the necessary calm, guiding hand to moderate affairs toward peaceful resolutions. Let the message go out, loud and clear, to all peoples of all nations throughout the world. Hello. How was your morning? We managed to locate Otto von Habsburg. Welcome, Demi-home. Home-ish. Home adjacent. So we're now on the verge of being able to send our strongly worded letter. Now a judgment call must be made. Alright, they are currently approaching Japan. I feel like we have time to grab our first two industries since reintegration there gives us a leg up on opinion with Austria and Czechoslovakia. Do a little goodwill gesture before we proceed with negotiations. Yes, as our new king. Broncolato, while he won't make such outlandish claims as our neighbors that all trains could be made to hold the schedule, most of them will be within tolerance, usually. At times, things happen to disrupt our schedules, but you should not allow this to ruin your day. Send forth a royal proclamation to not fret that sort of thing. Trains will run as best they are able. We all get where we're going no sooner than anyone else. Trains will train more often than in Spain at the moment. Though surely, in time, they as well will return to their regularly scheduled programming. In these 6% troubled times, it is approximately as important as usual to come together as communities and work for our mutual benefit. Now, hold off on new aircraft designs until we appoint an appropriate company for that. Surprisingly, we have no shovels, or at least no military-grade shovels. Let's fix that. That's a good first equipment thing to dig into. I mean, without a good, sturdy, dependable, all-purpose shovel, how are we going to save people from avalanches? Blizzards? Mudslides? Our extensive disaster relief planning has revealed such weaknesses in our current loadout. We might consider in future legislative seasons that perhaps all citizens should be, as part of their general education, properly trained in the application of shovels. To be sure that all peoples of the realm will shovel safely. Would be to the benefit of the public good to ensure that all homes contain at least one shovel in good care and maintenance. In these times that are 6% more dangerous than norm, would you rather your sons not be versed in the shoveling arts? Regardless, let's take the next block of 150 and go to free trade. It should proceed to have zero impact on our military resources, and instead give us free output forever. Everywhere. Wondrous. Despite the lack of readily available fuel, we're slowly, gently sorting out all the dents in the production process over there. Getting this bird assembly thing pretty nailed down. Our Bureau of Shovel Research is proceeding at full speed to ensure our civil servants use only the finest digging tools. At current rates, we generate 54 recruits a month. Slowly chipping away at our 50,000 person deficit? 52? 51 at the moment. We have a surplus of general service equipment already because there's no one to use it. With that in mind, it's a little reallocation of resources here. Terribly useful thing for preventing avalanches. Small controlled detonations can be used to release stress, prevent buildup. Also highly effective for deploying emergency flares. Very high visibility. And let's see, just review our currently available templates. 6 helmet. And 4 horse with some binoculars. These shall be fine-tuned over time. Production is even keeping up with our training exercises quite easily. Barely a dent on the supplies. Very good. Excellent. Job well done. In the beginnings of some good times for this, where our industrial tree really starts to kick in. Once we get back to it, just right away, 2 civilian, 3 building slots, and then our tech slot. a couple of research bonuses, and then the split, where I will be taking the neutral path. Especially since this is available to both sides. The benefits down this side, it's just 5 additional military, and then links into these bonuses for aircraft production you can snag. But first, now that we have an appropriately reliable line of transport and communication, let us deliver mail. We've put together a quick customer relations survey. See, we suspect that the new integrated railway system would benefit from an appropriate matching system of universal identification and validation that would allow one to ideally travel with one document across the extent of the network with minimal fuss. The network is sure to see extensive, peaceful use to the benefit of our mutual economies. It would be senseless to have all of those passengers tied up in excessive customs. We have drafts of various proposals that we think would facilitate the goal of simplifying the transport process, streamlining the travel experience to the benefit of Austrians and Hungarians on the new dual railway network. Now, some might call the level of integration that we're proposing overreach. We'd prefer to view it as forethought. The situation provides us with an opportunity to rebuild a lot of old systems from the ground up. Fortunately, by our best available intel, Germany is in no position to demand annexation, and there are even higher manpower limits before they can move on to the other steps in the process. So we have time to discuss this issue at length with our neighbors and reach a pleasant, productive, mutually beneficial agreement. Yeah, we got all of our top row stuff sorted out. Before committing to grabbing Looking at those. Just defense and attack experts there. Whose office even is this? I don't know what this is for. Explain your job to me. What are you applying for, Francois? You don't make any sense. You should go get some rest. Let's see. Ground support. Ace generation. And then for our general spots, armor, recovery, ace generation, and mobile infantry. All interesting stuff. For now, we will grab designs. Focus on light aircraft. I don't think there's too much of a market for especially large planes. They're quite loud. It looks like all the training has served much of its purpose, so just in case, I mean, this is a high-risk season. Go ahead and focus a bit more on preparedness and arbitrary drills. Give everyone a chance to get up to helping form. I mean, we have every confidence in the new railway network, but it is early in the rollout of a new technology. There's always the chance something could go wrong and require intervention. If some unfortunate event were to derail our forward progress, I would want all of our service personnel in position to intervene. $36 for line, only 24 for reserves. We could equip one of these with a support. Or alternatively, be halfway to having both of our cavalry equipped with that. And instead, shovel research is still a month off. Cannot commit to a rollout until we've worked out all the bugs. Those are fine for service, though. Coincidentally, also a month off. At some point, we will have to divert the attention of our top minds to also considering applications for the automobile. Some sort of specialized all-terrain device could be quite helpful. We could use them to quickly repair bridges. Tow heavy cargo through areas with damaged roads. So we must ask Austria, do you feel neutral? You nerd.
Értettem. Sorakozó. Kész. Parancsok. Sorakozó.
Unthinkable. Unforgivable. But it is what is before us, and we must accept the truth. Our neighbors are rude.
Kész. Sorakozó. Kész.
It has been perhaps unfair to our initial proposal, so we are going to send a team to discuss the issue in greater detail and hopefully come to a peaceful resolution. Now, there are some that would say that this violates our obligations per the Disarmament Treaty. I would say, in turn, what treaty? I don't see Otto von Habsburg's signature on any sheet of paper. Oh, you want the Kingdom of Hungary? We're the Kingdom of Hungary. Quite different. So we bypass the need for this little stopgap fellow here, the secret rearmament that would have given us back a little bit of manpower. And we will also be able to bypass this, where if you had not already exited the treaty, this is your opportunity to renegotiate it quietly with the Romanians. That won't be necessary, though, because clearly treaties are bullshit, and no one pays attention to them anyway. They're just words on a page. Make you lose sight of what's important. That's that we have a job to do.
Készen állok.
The aid of cutting-edge aero technology. These four groups identified here, that represents pretty appreciable slice of what they have available, and will not be able to prevent us from establishing an effective perimeter around the major population centers. Through which we can then proceed with administering the recount. Yeah, in fact, the first count, that's the problem. Kurt, you didn't even bother to count. You just flipped us off. Kurt, if you're against the idea of even having a vote, then who's the real aggressor here? We asked questions that you refused to answer, Kurt. We didn't write that letter to you, Kurt Schuznig. We wrote it to Austria, to all the people of Austria, and we will go to the people. We will go door to door and ask every citizen of Vienna what they think of our expansion, the pre-existing railway integration system. We want to know what real Austrians think about making their lives more convenient. These folks here are actually putting up some pretty good counter pressure. We may want to go reinforce. We have the advantage on several of these battles, but we'll take a fair amount of time to really bring out the details. There, already we stand at the gates of Vienna, where we will knock politely, administer some literature, and then be back at some point over the next couple of days. You can negotiate the hour, whenever's most convenient for the resident, to collect their opinion on the merger. Look, already a significant portion of polling stations are reporting in. We should have the results any day now. That's all we wanted, Colonel. We just wanted to ask. And now we know. And more importantly, we have this report on shovels. Be it resolved. We've set the standard for digging tools. Large, small, and moderate. It's been a while since we've been out near the Alps. How do you ski again? There's like a trick to it, right? There's some particulars that aren't so obvious, not terribly intuitive. We will hash out the details. And more importantly, deliver on our promises to expand the network. Set up a nice, healthy regional airport. And then let's see what the industry spreads like here. 2 and 4. 4, 1 and 3, quite healthy, and that will improve. That's the initial preliminary account. That will improve once we sort out the rest of the paperwork. And let's see, as a placeholder, I know this is not the best iteration, but it is the design we have now, so we may as well make a couple of pilot units just to have the general idea down. A lot of the skills will be transferable. It's make work. Valuable job experience. A bit of stimulus. And would you look at that? We have personnel. Well, personnel that are spoken for with our current distribution. But still. A number of recruit. And perhaps we could, take some measures to start opening up our hiring policies. Do a little bit of procurement reform, cut down on frivolous spending. Really start to turn this economy into an adequately maintained machine. Get everything about us operating within tolerances. How important we can bring our air service up to some more clean sizes. I'll just disband these for the moment. I don't think we really have much of a role for such a craft. Perhaps someday in the future. But not that vehicle here and now. Look, now you can go all the way from the Alps to almost the Carpathians with a single pass. Just buy an ordinary ticket and you can be there. Mountain to mountain. Ish. That's service. We do have a couple of these designs that we picked up from elsewhere. It's the initial prototype is for carrying liquids. I'm sure it could be modified to transport other materials as needed. Just think of it as a big metal Saint Bernard. Let's see, get that done. Get that out of the way, right away. And then move on to discussing issues with our other neighbor. Since they were unfortunately left out of the initial negotiations, there is more discussion to be had. We would need to start printing the relevant literature in another 2-3 languages to provide really good, earnest support to the rest of the network. Slip through on a technicality. I'll do apologies for the inconvenience. We're going to sort this out. Maybe Joe will leave us alone if we buy his oil. Alright, so we have all the necessary material to implement shovels. There's no additional personnel to carry them. Well, that's definitely something correct. We have allowed HR to languish for too long. Gotta get back on hiring. Put up some nice posters. Get the word out that we are hiring. Uncle Otto wants you digging holes. It's a start. Tragic. If only there were a way to better predict dangerous weather. What if? I could definitely see a market for 3 or 4 times this initial block of units, depending on how much area we need to provide service to over time. One of our biggest concerns will be whether or not the Axis forms on this run. So I wonder how much Austrian material we acquired. Probably mostly general equipment. Let's get that nailed down once and for all. Get a team together to really finalize that rebranding. For now, we have to bring in 167 recruits a month. A far more substantial number. I think next investment will be in mobilizing for a smidge, or maybe not. I could try to wait until things get warmer. As they might, sitting here at 8% global stress index. Better to leave the toasters alone for now. Let's try to get more people into service. Get a nice firm incentive program going. Get the training exercises to resume. But really, Austrians, relax. It's okay. Your name still goes first. That's how the alphabet works. It just flows better. Already have all the stationery for it. We do have a lot of points being used by toasters, though. The first step can do a lot of good. It's a rough call as to which of those will be most marginally useful. Depending on how negotiations go, I think the Czechs have all the necessary automotive experience to really get vehicles going in a serious way. The tank actually wouldn't noticeably slow down our just cavalry. Even at that primitive early level, the technology is already largely comparable to a horse over long distances.
Beep.
So yes, experience allowing, we could begin that transformation right away. And gradually phase out the horses in favor of automobiles. In which case, we may as well sort out the practical concerns of what that even means. What makes a good truck? You can't just pull a design for a good transport vehicle out of the void. Take the guiding light of many subcommittees to discuss it at length. Alright, so they've passed 500,000. definitely important that we stay on course to having the talk. Then the decision. Yeah, on the one hand, that is a 20% boost in number and a 5% cut in waste. Yeah, I think that'll pay off stronger at the moment. But we can't put off the other issue forever. That we generate a lot of political power with the bonuses that we've picked up along the way here. So it won't take too long to get all the positions filled and our ideas appropriately rearranged. Because I think what we've done here, we've had to put forth the question, well, we have to address the elephant in the room here, that while the shovel is immensely useful, it is a dangerous implement. We need some sort of licensing program to be sure that everyone is appropriately qualified to operate their shovels safely. Otherwise, it's more of a threat to their own families than it is to... Well, it shouldn't be a threat to anything at all. It's a tool. If it's causing anyone danger, that's a problem. And since everyone should have a shovel, everyone should take shoveling lessons. So if we just set up the necessary infrastructure to do that, make it part of the education system, we end up with a better educated, better equipped populace. %. However, like a phoenix from the ashes, back at it again, mostly what we were before, just covered in a lot of dust. Though we live in 11% troubled times, we stand together, a very reasonable distance away from the current and surely only point of tension which could arise over the coming years. So, neighbor, let us discuss the future. We have to talk about schedules. Actually... looks like it's not gonna visualize where my external planes are. Unless the current extent of them is entirely over that way, which could be. Like all the other regions we could start contesting are on later focuses. Yes, okay, so we just have a full set of claims across all of Czechoslovakia, including the coveted double claim on southern Slovakia. And on Ruthenia. That is especially very us that land right there. We have multiple sources. Alright, 17. Very good. Well, I suppose better if I had instead waited to kick out mobilization, but whatever. Get the opportunity in front of us. Yeah, Bohemians are kind of clever and well-read. Have you heard of water? What's an ocean? Do any of you have a navy? Is that a thing from books? Is that an art thing? No one's buying our damn aluminum. Tragic. This rate we'll have to start inventing more things to do with it. Best of luck in your endeavors, fellow neutral. Right, Venice sounds familiar. Didn't they boat? We should visit there sometime, perhaps, in the future. Plan a nice vacation. No, we're actually managing a shuttle deficit. Let's cancel the training. That is too much stress on the equipment now. Just leave it be. You understand enough about what you're doing. Got all the theory firmly nailed down. We'll have to get a professional on the subject. Spain is nearly concluded. German Romans seem focused on boring things for the moment. Likewise, the Italians. France, what are you up to? Also development. That's basic mountains, and we have our air designer. Let's go ahead and get our photo up to date. Balkan strategy. The British might be agitating to go after the Italians. They're preparing to ask questions of their own. Always ready to be part of the dialogue. Ah yes, we've also now properly taken stock of all available development opportunities. Let's review here, as we have various historic documents on the subject. Things which were once either an Austria or a Hungary. Istria, Veneto, and South Tyrol. Specifically those three for a first wave. And then beyond that, Tuscany, Lombardy, and Emilia. No, it slides down the middle. Is it, wait, was Piedmont mentioned in there? Oddly, no. Either way, we don't have nearly the personnel to consider pursuing any of that at the moment, so that goes onto the old backbench. A discussion for a further time. Especially since we've now posed the question, and a lot will change depending on how our neighbors respond. What do you think? We're getting the band back together. The double puppet. Behold, the Kingdom of Bohemia. This is our middle-of-the-road option here. They could choose outright annexation or refusal. We have a healthy in-between. Let's see, what status did they end up with? Currently Dominion. And it would take some doing to try and ring them in closer. But it could eventually be pursued, and if we did eventually do the legwork for a full annexation, what we'd get out of that is it's all core territories. It would just be brought into place. It will be a matter for future sessions of Parliament. As, hey, look, we have a crown that answers to a legislative body. We have that on our own without you having any say in it, Britain. You don't have some kind of monopoly on sensible modern governing practices. We have those too these days. So that is of help. And may hopefully serve to preempt some things. Yes, good. If they try to be rude, the event goes to us, and it will be up to the crown to decide the fate of the world. Bulwark of neutrality that we are. So for now, back to economy until we're able to bring up our personnel count high enough. Then we can decide which further directions to try to pressure in. As deciding which direction to move at which time is going to be of absolute importance. Where are you going, Germans? Just shuffling around? Now, sadly, in the current state of the game, despite our existence as the neutral faction, or I suppose we're not faction yet, we just are ourselves. We'd only achieve faction status if we actually had a mutual peer ally to work with. Despite our commitment to neutrality, it is not yet possible to boost neutrality in other nations, try to build local support for neutral movements. There we go. Mandatory shovel training.
Case.
No, that's a much longer than I actually want to work with border. Delegation, folks. So we're about to hit 38. That means computers. We don't have our tank designer. Can need some further improved basic equipment. Right this minute, yeah, excavation. Well, let's see, let's also, now that we have exact specifics, take full stock of Bohemia. For divisions, 9 green, 19 orange. 260 aircraft, and no current man reserve, but they are also only unlimited at the moment. Yeah, they're roughly equal size to us. Just didn't have to shake off disarmament at the start of the campaign. They are already up to speed.
PJ.
Feeling a bit of a tentative plan here. Okay, yeah, that order doesn't belong to you. Clear that off.
Vigilante. Oronchuk.
Create two hybrid armies. Half standard infantry, half mountaineer. And then our mobile force, once they have mobile equipment to work with. And it will take a while before we get a chance to more tightly integrate Bohemia. Like we'd be limited to mostly just the focus itself for applying pressure. Maybe if I start spending them, sending them some spare gear. If such a thing could be said to exist. Actually, we have a decent sized air force at the moment. Sitting just shy of 300 active aircraft. And let's see, like what resources? You rely entirely on imported aluminum. How about we send you, like, half our birds? Quarter of birds. Quarter of birds, 1/10 of rifle. It's a start. A little care package. Just a reminder we're thinking of you over there. Also, these lines are so close together that in the event that one engages before the other, that's very easy to swing forces from one side to the other. There. Spain is over. For the time being.
Baranchuk.
Polish-Romanian alliance. Alongside Poland having formed a Baltic faction. Intriguing. Surprising we didn't end up with a bunch of frivolous templates. I guess that only happens on Diplo Absorbed, where we actually receive their active standing units. Ah, truck. Good. I suppose we do understand now this miracle device that we've been waiting for ages. This missing link in weather predicting technology. Where they substantially buffed the radius of the basic Tier 1 to make the initial investment more useful. Current policies have us up to 479 recruits per month. I suppose I should allocate resources to truck. Should they become available. There they'll be. Go to partial. And then next policy upgrades would be... I can hold off on extensive. I think that's enough number to reach like the order on paper that I'm interested in having. So instead, tank designer. Theorist needs to get in here. The latest design is in. Cutting edge aero technology. Turns out all this time we've been building planes with too many wings. You just need the one wing. You take the one wing and then you move it faster. Works out much more convenient. Whether or not this principle can be applied to other aircraft remains to be seen. Perhaps someday. Hold on, do I have to... Probably have to modify the deal here. Since these no longer exist, we're producing none of the Avis 3. And when 39 rolls around, we're going to have a bunch of discounts to drop on many a science. Good stuff. Alright, yeah, now that we have motorized, let's get field hospitals active very early. Complete our repertoire of search and rescue equipment. That. Is it that time already? really want this to be about you.
Beep.
Although if it's only about you, that could be worked with. Let's go ahead and sketch up some diagrams. I mean, let's see. Overall, he has no more than 110 units. At present, we wield 30. And the Bohemians 57. We're talking similar overall land forces. The Bohemians have also had a chance to heavily fortify their border. The Sudetenland is a little unbreakable. Britain has been distracted by economy. France, what do you think of this? Poland, are you involved? Are you watching this, Poland? Are you seeing this? We may be on our own here.
Figyelj! Készen állok. Parancsok?
Small bird reserve. Many tanks we aren't using yet. about this. Go ahead and prioritize those storm shelters. The weather looks a little rough. We have a fort. It's called the Alps. Though it offers somewhat less than comprehensive coverage. Though for that we have the Bohemians.
Értettem. Figyelem! Indulásra kész. Figyelem! Készen állok. Figyelj! Parancsok.
I have a feeling we're about to get a fair amount of complimentary experience in the near future.
Készen állok.
They are very proud of their new toys. What good is a murder wagon to a bird? Well, what good is our birds to their many, many more birds? But that's what the shelters are for. The shelters, and hopefully the early warning system as well. Which also the radar should give more immediate benefits. And once one rank of that is ready, I'll go ahead and slide it under the towers. Just over a month each to get the basic radars up. And we have no manpower reserve to work from. Until however long to get the laws adjusted. It's a question of how long 40,000 extra bodies will last. Demand all you want. Our neutrality will not be infringed. Oh, I can also free up a bit of personnel by just collapsing a bit of recruitment there. Your move, Dolph. They have some medium armor. Or some of that large. Technologically too soon for medium, but they probably have a couple of get ahead of the curve focuses. There might be weird hybrid light and heavy armor units. We're not sure what we're doing with these yet, so we're just gonna pile all of our fanciest gizmos under one commander and let him go wild. Well, good luck with that. July 2nd, 1938. The day the neutrals went to war. This is a very useful layer of overlay zoomed out at this level. It's kind of a broad theater level unit count. As far as we know, 26 to 23. Nearly 60 of ours total against 31 of theirs. I like these odds. For the moment. I'll put my birds in the air. Just to have that commanding out of the way. And let's see, yeah, we're a solid quarter of construction time off of having all of our early warning stations up. But supposing the fight is willing to stay put for that long, we'll have ourselves a nice advantageous air combat zone. And then, who knows? Maybe someone, somewhere, anywhere, anyone at all, might have some opinion about what's up. the time being on this matter. We stand neutral. Next time